System riding to the core. Yeah. Reppin' inner city left.
This is the Inner City Left broadcast. Today is July 1st. Wake up, wake up, wake up. It's the first of the month. I am Amin TMK alongside Emoja Lil Tanky Sumler. Emoja, hello, and how are you doing on this first of the month?
Damn, bro, I did not even realize it was July. There it is.
Well, we are now closer to 2050 than we are 2000. The year 2000. Okay. Yeah, anyway, hello. What's up?
Damn, you just want to keep hurting me, man. Damn.
Yeah, we're getting old, but we're still young and beautiful.
That's true.
Okay, let's talk about some things. First, let's talk about this because me and you were discussing this a little bit earlier. We talk sometimes, we're friends. And it really blows my mind. I think it blows your mind as well, that what's happening in Syria, or what has happened to Syria. How about that's probably more accurate. The former al-Jawlani, doesn't go by al-Jawlani anymore, al-Shara, named himself president. Okay, this was a quote from the president today. I want to show this to you, and maybe I can just get your reaction. Trump said the man leading Syria, that's al-Shara, FKA, al-Jawlani. The man that is leading Syria was the head of, quote, some tough organizations. He is pretty tough. He is a good guy. This is from Donald Trump. The organizations he is referring to is ISIS and Al-Qaeda. We have a head chopper in charge, a person who named themselves president. Now, and you mentioned this to me earlier. Now whatever you want to say it, the leader, not even the leader. He is the person who is in charge over one of the most important strategic positions in all of the Middle East. Your thoughts on that quote and your thoughts in general, what I just said?
I mean, again, right, it's just, again, the normalization. This is why in leftist circles for years, the whole joke about ISIS is Israeli intelligence services. They seem to attack everybody but Israel. You know what I'm saying? And the fact that this man, we've talked about it on this broadcast for years, when before the Syrian conflict had resolved, that you had a Department of Defense insurgents that were fighting against the CIA's insurgents. And all of these forces had different goals in Syria. This is the State Department, because, by proxy, this was Langley's guy. They've spent years grooming him to do exactly what he's doing now. Less than, like you said, it's July 6th. Well, this time, it's July 1st. This time last year, that man, who is the president of Syria, had a $10 million bounty on his head, wanted dead or alive. By the United States government, by the way. You know what I'm saying? And other governments, this man had warrants for real. And he's now just been nominally declared the president, right? This is that Zelensky shit, How are you a president, right? Let's be honest. You have not been elected. At the best, you're a dictator. At the worst, at best, you're a nominal leader, a transitional leader. A person that does not have the mandate of the people as backed by some type of vote, or public outcry, it's incredibly dangerous that this is the person that's being allowed to make decisions that will shape the direction of the nation that Syria becomes over the next 20 years, 50 years, right? 100 years. He's normalizing relations with Israel, okay, which means selling out the Palestinian Muslims, by the way, right? This is where those Wahhabi guys and those Salafists get a little bit weird, because to them, they're not necessarily pan-Arab in that way. You know what I'm saying? Like, he sees himself as a Syrian nominally. He sees himself as a Wahhabist. If you're not a Wahhabist Islamist, then, the fact, it's almost like, in a very extreme way, it's like a Baptist doesn't necessarily care what happens to a Catholic. Y'all do it wrong anyway. They're not real Christians, right? But times 10, And the other thing that he's doing that's incredibly significant and really important, he's in this normalization, right? When they were talking about when Steve Witkoff comes off and says, oh, we've got all these new nations, these Arab nations that are ready to accept the Abraham Accords, right? Which is a normalization with Israel process. He's giving away the Golan Heights, which is, even according to the United Nations, occupied land that belongs to Syria. Now, this isn't just like, oh, just give up some land to make peace. This is the most strategic heights in the entire Middle East, the Levant area. Whoever controls that controls the military destiny of what happens in that area. It's the highest point from which, you can really control the valleys underneath. Syria is part in the valley. Part of Israel is in the valley. Well, technically all of Israel is in the valley, right? But now you've given this incredible, strategically important military choke point to a nation that has been ostensibly your enemy, the enemy of your country for at least the past 50 years. Every other week I'd hear a tale about the IDF, bombing some reactor in Syria, bombing Damascus, just whenever they wanted. You know what I'm saying? The only kind of ways you could have stopped that was a Syria that had strong, air defense, SAM sites on the Golan Heights, exactly the area that's been ceded. So it's incredibly dangerous, right? It shows you that this is a puppet leader. They accept him because he's willing to do literally every single thing the West wants done. He's also, he's obligated, right, if he signs his Abraham Accords to essentially be at war with Hezbollah and Hamas, right? So that's another army you've got on the cheap now. Anything to keep from having the Israelis to actually have to put themselves in a position where they might lose their own lives. Everybody becomes a proxy for the Greater Israel Project. And Giuliani is the latest circumstance of that in a major way. What I don't understand is why the rest of the Global South, goes along with this, except that by and large, the Global South aren't the kind of nations that practice interference in other countries in this way or condone assassinations. You got the president of the United States and Bibi talking about doing a decapitation strike on the religious leader of Iran, right? And none of these countries even consider necessarily, going to war with this guy, Giuliani, who is handpicked of the West and was clearly, and this is not a slight, this is just the truth, a terrorist, a wanted terrorist, known throughout the world for heinous acts, up to including all of the kind of shit you expect ISIS and Al-Qaeda to do. He's probably got the blood of American soldiers on his hands.
Reuters, this is Reuters, not me, not some radical leftist site. Reuters reporting since al-Giuliani / al-Shada, 1,500 Syrian Alawites are killed and many more missing. It's pretty bad, man. It's pretty G-side-like. And, we had this long conversation many years ago with a friend of mine, another activist, about Assad and, this idea that he gassed his citizens. And, this is what happens when you allow that propaganda to work and to continue to go forward. People repeating that same propaganda, which has been debunked, not by us, by committees in Europe. And now what is not because I want to be right and not because I just want to beach and moan about something, is because I want people to be aware of the things that they are supporting, which is the United States using their propaganda to make you hate a leader, which, again, I'm not saying good, bad. It's not up to me. It's up to the Syrian people. This guy is not al-Shada. He is not he's not serving the Syrian people. He's serving his own desires and wants and whether it's Wahhabism or he's just down for the grift. He's just down to be one of these types of people. I don't want to necessarily, figure out what his motivations are.
What his game is? Who
knows what his game is? But you know what the game is sometimes, Amosha? Power. I'd like to have power and I can be a powerful person. And he's got that. And now he's doing, like you said, Golan Heights. Hey guys, just for you. And another.
What is Syria gaining in this deal? What does Syria gain from normalization with Israel at this point? Right? A negotiation is a conversation between numbers. It's not a conversation if I say, here's everything your heart has ever desired. Let me just give it all to you. Right? I mean, what is Syria getting in this deal? That's how you know, again, this dude is a patsy of the West.
You trade them for you're trading your best player for cash considerations. It's not a good look. And again, just to hammer the point home, this is Richard Medhurst. This is a person who I highly respect, especially when it comes to their knowledge of Syria. Syria's blessed revolution. This is Richard Medhurst. Syria's blessed revolution, they said, Assad was brutal and had to go. Then, as soon as he did, began the slaughtering of the Assyrian Druze, Alawites, and now Christians. Ultimately, they will all come for all Syrians who refuse to bend before Wahhabism. This is Israel, U.S. co-supported, and that's just a fact. And unless we are able to acknowledge that, that we are just at the central part of this and not Assad or whoever it might be, the bad dictator of the week when someone just named themselves president. Okay, that's that.
Let's also, they're saying this is what the Israel and United States and let's talk about that Saudi Arabia, that the United Arab Emirates, that Qatar. Like these nations have all financed this dude and put him in power and given him legitimacy.
And look, silence and complicity. Go ahead and put Egypt in there. Go ahead and put Jordan in there.
Right.
It's
well,
many.
Look, they look the other way, but Jordan's not even a player. They can't get nobody, you know what I'm saying? Like the Emiratis got
and they never
real
will be.
Money. Right. The Emiratis got real fucking money. Revolutions require more than just support,
Right.
I voted for him. It's a revolution. No, that's that Bernie Sanders shit. Like a real revolution is extremely expensive and requires financing. It requires intelligence operations, covert ops, propaganda. Like, I think it would be far too complimentary to give Jordan. Now Egypt, sure, they've got that power, but again, they're missing some money. Egypt is economically insolvent. They definitely don't have the money to be putting up for revolutions. They can supply military support, but it never came to that. You know what I'm saying? Again, so they provided tacit support, though, and that's important, too. Sometimes just looking the other way while someone robs your neighbor is still a shitty act. Every time. What am I saying? Unless your neighbor's an asshole. I don't know. You're muted, good sir.
I was testing you. Yes, I'm muted. Wanted to show this to you, which is more important than me talking. U.S. ramps up arrests of Iranians. This is ICE arresting 130 Iranian nationals over the past week. This is, of course, something that Fox News is reporting, but this is what this is how they're accurate. These are the ways that they're accurate. As we kind of move forward here, this country's had a long history of countries that they're at war with, sort of being at war with the populations here. I mean, what is your response to this? I mean, we've heard about this now with You Can't Say Free Palestine. The guy, I forget his name, who was saying death to the IDF. I mean, they really coming down on all this stuff.
My question is, what's it going to take? What's it going to take for people to see a certain pattern? World War II, all of a sudden, oh no, the Japanese are being interred. The Gulf War pops off. All of a sudden, everybody's compromised. They're all the ops in the mosques and whatnot. Anti-Arab hate is at an all-time high, and also anti-Muslim sentiment, and they're two different things.
Right.
But why is it during World War II the Germans weren't rounded up? You know what I'm saying? I mean, the guys that had the genetic, background of Hitler and all of them. Technically, Hitler was an Austrian, but I digress. The world definitely still thinks about him as a German, and we were at war with Germany. You know, why didn't that happen? Right? Why does it always the POCs that get rounded up and arrested? Right? I mean, it's just once again, it's ICE showing that they are an arm of white supremacy and they're utilized like this consistently. But again, it goes back to my greater question of why would an Iranian want to be a part of the American empire with everything that Iran has suffered from the empire? You know, and it's not me justifying it, but I mean, I have questions all the way around on this, you know, all the way around. I get maybe you don't want to live in a theocracy, nominal theocracy that still has absolute Republican tendencies. There's a republic, people get voted for, there's a president, you know, all of those things. But there's a difference between leaving Iran and moving to the West, you know, and these are people that chose the West. And the West is once again still saying, nah, I don't really trust you. You probably are not.
Yeah.
This is what they're choosing, you know?
Yeah. Got another thing I want to show you, and this is why I want to show you these things, is because it's important to like acknowledge that there is, or there was at some point, or maybe there never was, I guess I should say, but there is this like idea that this is the Trump thing. You know, Trump is the person. He is the guy that is making all the bad things happen. And that's just ridiculous. And when people are like, oh, you know, this wouldn't be happening if it was a Democrat involved, or this wouldn't be happening if Kamala was in, or any. This is probably one of the most quote unquote radical of the Democratic Party. This is Bernie Panders, okay, as you would say, racist grandpa.
Racist grandpa.
You know, whether it's AOCIA or Poopy Corey, as Dr. CBS would say, these are supposedly the people that are, you know, the opposition. I just want to show you this. This was Bernie Sanders in Ireland when asked if, you know, what was happening in Gaza was a G-side. Well, it's not playing, so that's annoying. But essentially, he was saying that, you know, I don't like to use the word genocide. I don't enjoy it because it's not, you know, it's not a word that you should necessarily use. It's a very finicky word. And, you know, this is kind of the issues that I have, where it's like, this is such an obvious case of G-side, what's happening in Gaza. And, you know, again, we could talk about the same things, similar things in the Congo and in Syria, where 1,500 religious minorities are being slaughtered. But essentially, you know, not wanting to use the G word at this point, now 18 months in. Yeah, exactly. What are your thoughts?
Bernie Sanders is an apologist for the, at best, he's an apologist. At worst, he's an outright sympathizer. He's continued throughout this entire ordeal, right, to only say, oh, it's all Netanyahu. It's, you know, to make Netanyahu the Trump of Israel, you know, when the fact of the matter is, when it comes to war policies, Netanyahu, that's the one area where Netanyahu rates high with the people. Like in every other aspect of his prime ministership, people have huge problems with him. You know, they don't like his executive overreach. You know, they don't like the ways that he's limited the Supreme Court in Israel. They don't like his corruption, his double dealing, right? But when it comes to the oppression of Palestine and the absorption of their land, that's where he's 90%, 95. I mean, these are real poll numbers for Netanyahu, right? So to make him some type of anomaly within the Israeli experience, that's some type of an outlier. That's just not true. And there's no way that someone as intelligent as Bernie Sanders wouldn't know these things, right? So the fact that the best you can get out of him is, you know, it'd all be different if we had someone other than Bibi Netanyahu. That's how you know he's not acting in good faith. Was that the beginning of the souring of the relationship between the Palestinians and the Israelis? No. We can go back to Yitzhak Rabin. We can go back to Ariel Sharon. We can go back to Golda Meir. It's never been different, man. It's always been this type of relationship where it's like Israel has the right to exist. No one is debating that. No one is seriously debating that in a real way. What we're talking about is, does Palestine have a right to exist? Does Palestine have a right to defend itself? Right? These are questions you can't get these people to believe, because it's like it forces the question: does only Israel have a right to exist? Right? Does only Israel have a right to defend itself, or are these the sovereign rights of a nation state? Right? You can play litigious games and say, well, Palestine is technically not recognized as a nation in the United Nations, but they do have observer status, right? Syria is a member. That was a member of the United States Security Council, by the way, less than 20 years ago, and that the whole government has been destroyed. Lebanon, inside of the country of Lebanon. How many times has Israel bombed them? They're breaking the ceasefire right now. Does Lebanon have a right to defend itself? Like, where is the Lebanese army when it comes to these bombings that are happening? There are reports that, once again, there are explosions in Tehran, and we know who done it. We know who done it. Even if bombs didn't fly over there from the IDF, we know who's covertly funding these kind of things, or can strongly infer. Does Iran have the right to defend itself if it was to open with a missile volley against Israel again? Would there be anyone in the Western media or government that would say, there was supposed to be a ceasefire, the war is over, Israel has went too far, and Iran has a right to, I don't agree with them, but Iran has a right to defend itself. I mean, where the fuck is Lindsey Graham going to be now? Right? It's always only Israel. No matter what they do, no matter how they start the conflict, they're able to be this bully that's able to impose their will. And the moment that their will can't be imposed, they become the victim. That's just, being, oh my God, all these mean, scary Arabs and these Persians. I mean, we live in a dangerous neighborhood. Go the fuck back to Poland then. I mean, is Poland any less dangerous? You know what I'm saying? Is Germany any less dangerous? All of these places where these people ethnically derive from, because it's important to acknowledge it's not even legal to do a 23andMe in Israel. They don't want people in Israel taking DNA tests because they don't want there to be any type of way to prove historically whether or not they were the ancient Israelites or not. And so when people is operating off of this framework of, well, this is their native, instinctive, hereditary lands, that's not even what the science backs up. Israel, once again, has the highest rate of skin cancer in the world because these Europeans don't have the genetic markers to be able to live in the desert. That's not something that you lose genetically in 2,000 years. You know what I'm saying? Those kind of things take much longer as far as evolutions in the human genome go.
Just want to say 700 people considered to be affiliated with the Israeli government in some capacity were arrested in Iran. And this is something that Cuba understands. You are going to have ops in your country all the time, man. It's not like the surveillance that we have on our phones from Meta and Amazon and all the United States government watching you. They are trying to keep ops out of their country. And this is something that they were dealing with the WhatsApp and having all these American apps. I mean, at the end of the day, these can all get backdoored. We know exactly where you are. We know exactly what you're doing. I want to show you. This is kind of like the last thing, and then I'll just give it to you. I'm going to see if it works, guys. I don't know. I think, no. That sounds like something is happening. Great. I want to show you this because I like to harp on the Democrats because, of course, the Republicans are so evil. It's incredibly easy to see, of course. Okay. This guy, Pete Buttigieg, he's right now in the polls, he's number one in the Democratic polls for the next Democratic candidate for president. He was at a campaign rally, I guess, And this is from Hold Dems Accountable. Push Dems Left. Very great Twitter page. Twitter X account, Twitter page. I guess I'm like an old ass man. Okay. Came in at 0% with black voters. Okay. 0%. 0%. I just want you to hear this, and I'm gonna get you to respond to this because this is freaking gold. Here we go.
You running for president and you want black people to vote for you? That's a downfall. That's not gonna happen.
I'm not asking for your vote.
You ain't gonna get it either.
I'm not asking for you ain't gonna get it neither.
Oh my goodness.
I have said so many times, people think I'm hating. I'm a political fucking analyst. The Democrats are going to get fucking washed. For like several elections, man, they are rudderless. They are a ship out at sea. These are people that are being pushed upon the people that don't have any type of real grassroots connections. Even in the queer community, he's not some fucking icon of queer. You know what I'm saying? He just happens to be a gay man. Like, this ain't a dude that's out at Pride with the trans people. And, you know what I mean? Like, that's not dude. Like, his whole shtick
he wants to distance himself from that type of stuff.
I'm the regular gay guy that lives across. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's
I'm
like
not putting a gay all in your face. Okay.
Right. I mean, it's straight up American, American Beauty. Like, that's dude. Him and his husband live peacefully, you know, and like, so like, this is a dude that, again, I get it. You know, he's got connections to the Bidens, you know, and that whole machine. He was part of that White House. He was in the military, in the Navy, right? So those are your national security credentials. You know, I mean, it wasn't like he was like a commander or, you know what I'm saying, a captain. Nah, they just do enough time to be like, I was in the military. This guy has no chance. The only thing that could happen that could possibly help them would be an implosion of the Republican Party, which, you know, Elon Musk is threatening because he didn't get his way with the, you know, the EVs. But I don't even think Musk has enough money or pull to be able to seriously damage what's happening with the Republican Party right now. The only thing that could ironically damage the Republicans' ability to stay in power for the next, I don't know, 8 to 12 years would be Trump forcing his hand and engaging in another military expedition in the Middle East that ends up very badly. And who could force him to do such a thing? Right? No one could force him to do. Like, that'd be the only thing he could really do. Like, go in there, get into a huge conflict with some power and lose an extraordinary amount of military assets. And then, you know, boom, the Democrats are back. You know, oh, Trump, we told you he wasn't good at national security. And again, this will be Democrats outflanking Republicans from the right, by the way, not leftist. And they're not going to give a fuck about what any of the liberals or leftists think. They're going to say, look, we gave you a gay dude. If you don't vote for him, you the ones that's not woke. You know what I'm saying? And that shit's not going to work. Like, Pete Buttigieg inspires no great emotion in anyone. He's the definition of milquetoast. You know, I mean,
if you're a milquetoast person, would be interested. Like a suburban house mom.
And let's be honest, okay? Because these are things, like, everybody wanted to be mad about this. You do have to acknowledge huge portions of the population will never vote for this man. He's going to lose every single southern state off the rip. Going to lose the entire Pacific Northwest off the rip. They're not going to vote for him. They're just not. You're not going to be able to sell Pete Buttigieg to Bubba. You're not going to be able to sell it to Jesse with the 6-shooter. You're not going to be able to do that. Like, they don't care that he went to the military. He's not that type of an American, you know, and they just don't have a chance.
Yeah. Let's give a shout out to our podcast listeners. We're available everywhere you find podcasts, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all the good stuff. Want to give another shout out to all our patrons. Y'all have really been holding us down, starting to communicate on there a little bit more. And we are going to continue with our community there. Check out our Patreon, patreon.com/innercityleft. Fables, Foibles, Other American Sins. available. innercityleft.com, and music always out. Search for Me TMK or Lil Tanky wherever you find your jams. Tanky, what did we miss? Some more thoughts, more feelings.
We have a situation that's developing in Thailand that we're watching quite closely. When we have a little bit more data, we will bring that to you. But it's something that could be potentially bringing that government down. We don't know if it's positive or negative, but we have seen their tilt towards the Americans in a very real way. This has been one of the most progressive countries in the world when it came to marijuana decriminalization and creating a wonderful hemp industry. And now all of a sudden we have a government that seems to be very against that. And I just wonder if all of it's connected. But we're still digging into the crates, getting the knowledge, and we'll bring it to you when we got it.
Yeah. And, again, Thailand was never colonized. They don't like that officially. And also, we might want to talk about Azerbaijan too. What's going on over there? Maybe we'll bring that to you guys on Friday. For Moja Lil Tanky Summer, I'm Me and TMK. This is the Inner City Left broadcast. Peace.
System riding to the core. Yeah. Reppin' inner city left.